Old McDonald had a funny farm by Mary McDowell. Prologue. Oh, hi there. I didn't see you coming up the walk. No, no, you're not interrupting anything. I was just sitting here watching the clouds drift by, and it reminded me of when we were all children, spending the afternoons trying to distinguish shapes in the moving clouds. And from that, I just slipped into daydreaming and reminiscing about when we ran around like wild Indians. Some of us really were, although we didn't know that little tidbit at the time, and it wouldn't have changed things anyway. There in our neighborhood, everyone was the same as everyone else. We didn't even have a real leader. We just decided, and everyone just agreed to do the same thing. The Ortolanis and the McDowells were the first children in the neighborhood, and then, after a while, came the Chateaus. The first were the most numerous in the beginning, and the Ortolani children, a little older than the McDonalds, were always ready to lend a hand, especially 14-year-old Tony. Nobody cared that Tony and his family were Italians. In fact, Melody, the oldest of the McDonald tribe, was absolutely heartbroken when the Ortolanis moved up to Central California because Mr. Ortolani bought a vineyard near Fresno. Their house remained empty for quite a while. Melody and her siblings played among themselves until Karen and Colette Chateau moved in next door. They didn't care that old Mr. Chateau was a French refugee, whatever that might have been, from the war. They were fascinated by the fact that he was a hairdresser. He had closed the backyard patio and transformed it into a beauty salon. Mrs. Chateau worked as a warden in the Orange County Jail. We didn't have much to do with Mr. and Mrs. Chateau because they were always so busy with work and all, and Mrs. Chateau didn't really care much for the other kids in the neighborhood. What? No, no, she didn't really walk with her nose in the air. Mr. Chateau was really nice to all of us, but his wife just didn't want us disturbing her in her free time. She was a little tough, I guess, probably because of her work, which couldn't have been too easy. It's just, I don't know, a feeling that we had. Anyway, Karen had ballet lessons every day after school, but when she came home, we all played together. As I was saying, Honey and Ross McDowell, Donald, loved kids. Most of us called Honey, and most of the other mothers, and even some fathers, by their first name, instead of Mrs. This or Mrs. That. It wasn't lack of respect on our part, because we did respect them, but they, in their respect and love for us, told us we could use their names. Most of us kids felt loved by most of the adults in the neighborhood, at least during the 60s when we were growing up. You know, a lot of history and progress was made during the 60s. Most of it was good, though not all of it, just like the kids in our neighborhood. By the time Melody started school, the tract had filled up with families full of children to play with the Smiths, the Stormers, the Kings, and others. Most of us were pretty good, although we all had our moments, of course. There were a few bad apples, but even they weren't always bad, just almost always. To tell the truth, we were, on the whole, just normal, though very lucky, everyday kids of our time. There was just magic in the air surrounding us, which made life sweet, the magic of being alive and knowing that we were loved. Anyway, as I was saying when you came up, I was thinking of a spring day much like today.